Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I know we have folks that are going to be joining us. Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra Guayes. My pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm one of the program coordinators at the Idea Engineering Student Center.
Hi, I'm Christine Alvarado, pronouns she, her, hers. I am a teaching faculty member in Computer Science and Engineering and Associate Dean for Students in the Jacobs School of Engineering.
Hi everyone, I'm Maya Sharif. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm an assistant teaching professor at Computer Science and Engineering.
Welcome to today's press information session for our undergraduate research programs. And at any point, if you have any questions, just please go ahead and either you can raise your hand or drop it in the chat, and we will go ahead and answer your question. So you're here to learn more about the Guided Engineering Apprenticeship in Research, or GEAR program, as well as the Early Research Scholars program. A little bit about the Idea Engineering Student Center is that our mission is to foster an inclusive and welcoming community to increase retention and graduation rates and promote a sustainable culture of academic excellence among all engineering students at UC San Diego. A little bit more about our programs include Jump In Team, which are mentorship programs for undergraduate students who are either transfer students or students just wanting to be connected to an upper class student or graduate student. We have our student matching funds and student travel funds, our academic workshops that are workshops and info sessions for engineers, as well as courses such as Eng 10, which are fundamentals of engineering applications, and Eng 15, Engineer Your Success.
All right, so like Alejandra said, you're here to learn about ERSP and GEAR. So both of these programs are academic year research apprenticeship programs. They run over the whole academic year in fall, winter, and spring, so coming up over next academic year. And what they're designed to be is they're designed to be a really supportive, immersive first research experience. So they're designed for students who have absolutely no research experience and perhaps very little experience in the discipline. So people who are fairly early in their careers who have never done research before. Some of the features of the program are that not only is everybody kind of in the same boat, being very early in their research career, but we give you a lot of support through a whole host of mentors that we'll talk about as this presentation goes forward.
So a little bit more about the GEAR and ERSP program. Specifically for GEAR, this is a research mentorship program for students in bioengineering, ECE, MAE, nano, and structural engineering. So if you're in those majors, please apply for our program. ERSP is a research mentorship program for computer science and engineering students interested in security and cryptography, computational theory, data analytics, systems and networking, robotics, embedded systems, and more.
Yeah, and the idea here is really they're very similar programs. So you might be wondering, well, what's the difference? Why are there two programs? It's really just a historical context. So ERSP started about 4 or 5 years before GEAR started in the Computer Science and Engineering department. And again, just like the list shows, it's for any area of CSE. So if you're a computer science and engineering major interested in any aspect of CSE, this program is for you. After a few years, it was so popular and it was working so well that we decided to expand it out to all of engineering. And because ERSP was already up and running in CSE, the GEAR program then took on the other 5 engineering departments. But as you'll see when we go through this program, this slide deck, they're very, very similar in their structure. All right, so speaking of structure, here's a little bit more about what to expect during these programs. So as I mentioned before, this is a full year academic commitment. So you're committing for the whole academic year to do research over the course of the year. So we're now in spring 2022. So we're looking at applications and then selecting applicants. So applicants will be selected towards the middle to end of the spring. And once you're selected, you'll enter the program, which starts in the fall. And we'll talk a little bit about what happens in the summer before the program starts, but really the program starts in earnest in the fall quarter. During the fall, you'll take a research methods course in both programs, ERSP and GEAR, as well as start working with your research group. The outcome of your fall course is a research proposal, and that proposal defines the work that you'll do over the next 6 months. So over the winter and spring, your research opportunity continues in more of an independent style. You'll be doing group or pair-based research together with a faculty mentor, as well as some additional mentoring support. And it all culminates in a poster session where you present your work at the end of the spring quarter. We have been virtual for the last 2 years, but this year we are hoping to do our in-person poster sessions again. and then that will continue as the years go by.
A little bit more about the course that students take in GEAR. Once you're accepted as a GEAR student, you do enroll in Eng 20, which is an introduction to engineering research, which takes place in the fall. It is a 2-unit academic credit-bearing course where students learn about issues in engineering research, how to understand and read research articles. So along with that, technical writing and learning how to draft your own research proposal, which you then use to navigate your own research in the lab that you're paired in for your spring presentation with us. And the class is taught by Dr. Ekaterina Edokimenko from the MAE department.
All right, so the course in the CSE department looks very similar. A couple small differences. You'll learn most of the same stuff. It is worth 4 units, and it does count as a CSE elective. It talks about practices and issues in CSE and engineering research. It goes into a lot of technical writing. You write a research proposal. So it's really very similar to the GEAR course, and it will be taught in the fall by Dr. Maya El-Sharif, who's here with us.
As Dr. Alvarado mentioned, as part of the programs, you are paired in a research lab. At least for the year program, you are expected to work in the lab 6 to 8 hours per week. You do work on a team of 2 in both GEAR and ERSP. So 2 to 4 students, and then conduct research from the proposal that you submit in the fall. And as part of the programs, you do maintain a research log to help keep track for yourself all the amazing work that you're doing as part of our programs.
Yep, and then it's very similar. So between the 2 programs, we'll talk a little bit about the mentorship structures. So as we mentioned before, you'll be matched with a research mentor who will really guide you through the research process in that technical discipline, that technical area. So you'll be in a faculty member's lab. It could be a faculty member providing you with that technical mentorship, or graduate students or postdocs from their lab. So you'll meet weekly with that faculty mentor or the technical mentor. But in addition to that, because you're all very new to research and often one meeting a week isn't enough, we have in ERSP a central mentor. And I believe it's the same with GEAR. Is that true? Do you have the central mentor? Yeah. So both programs have the central mentor, who is a graduate student who works with the program itself. So works with ERSP and GEAR to support all the teams who are involved in the program. And they'll provide you with some additional mentoring to help you get your questions answered in more timely fashion, to help you stay on track technically, to help you with any issues that you might encounter. In addition, in ARSP, you will also get more advising from Dr. El-Sharif. And then in GEAR, there is additional advising available through the Idea Center.
A little bit more about the programs as well. We have workshops that take place in the winter and spring for our GEAR students. So these are pictures of pre-pandemic when we had in-person workshops. So we did have a research skills workshop where students learned about Gantt charts, how to project manage in terms of time management. We also had a resiliency in research panel where the students got to hear from undergraduate engineering students doing research in the field, as well as PhD students to learn more about the challenges and the successes of being in research.
All right, and then a little bit more about that research symposium at the end of the program. So it takes place during week 10 of spring quarter, so it's the very end of your experience. And what you'll do is you'll create a team poster and then present it at this joint poster session. It's a lot of fun. Lots of the community members come by. You get a chance to talk to faculty and grad students and fellow undergraduates, and we kind of just celebrate all the work that you've done. It's really exciting to see all the work from the year come together. People are always worried, especially kind of at this point in the program when we're in early spring, they're gonna say, I'm not gonna have anything to say on my poster. And it's always very exciting to see the posters come together and to see all the great work that you've done.
So time commitment. So in the fall, we have, so it's going to differ based on the program that you apply to. It's 15 hours a week. So you have Eng 20, which is along with the number of hours you're in the class. It's also the assignments. And then the expectation for your lab and related independent learning. So lab will provide you with articles, learn more about the research the lab is doing. And then as well as to that, it's the year meetings, which And then ERSP, all time included under CSE 193 coursework includes your assignments, about 6 to 8 hours a week, and then meetings with your research groups, 1 to 2 hours, and meeting with research mentors.
Yeah, and the bottom line is that in these courses in the fall, their assignments are really geared towards helping you get your feet under you in terms of the research you'll be doing. So you're doing a lot of work to kind of get up to speed, to learn the background, to learn the skills that you'll need when you really launch into the research in winter and spring. You might start doing a little bit of like work in the project as well in the fall, but that really takes off in winter and spring, which we'll talk about on the next slide.
And I see there's a question in the chat. Oh. So this is not for summer session. So gear and ERSP are for fall, winter, and spring quarters. So time commitment for winter would be about 6 to 10 hours per week. Again, it's your lab placement, your independent learning, and then gear workshops, as well as your gear for ERSP meetings that can take up to an hour. And then spring, 6 to 10 hours per week based on your lab, preparing for your poster and the gear workshops. So additionally, those meetings that you would have with the gear central mentor or ERSP mentors. So again, winter and spring is when you're really executing the research that you're doing and working towards that research symposium at the end of the school year. So it's really what you're doing in your lab section. So please know that, especially because if you talk to current students, they'll say that a lot of fall quarter was learning about how to do research, and winter and spring was really them conducting research.
All right. So a lot of students always ask, like, how do I get to choose my lab? How do I get placed in the lab? So that's a really good question. What we do is we try to match students. So first we accept the students into the program, and then we match accepted students in the lab based on their interests, their skills, their major and their department, and then for ERSP especially their schedules, because we want to put groups together into teams where they're going to have a shot at actually being able to get together and do the work. We'll ask for your preferences in terms of what projects are available. The way we do it in ERSP is we'll release a set of projects. We'll ask you to kind of rate them in terms of your interest in the projects, and then we'll match you. But we may ask for your preferences in order to recruit additional faculty. So if we find that a lot of students are interested in one area and we don't have a faculty member in that area, then we'll go out and try to recruit a new faculty member to participate. We do confirm the matches over summer, and I know at least for ERSP, it's very late summer. It's about a week before fall quarter starts. So that whole process of matching is done in the sort of month of August and September.
And similarly for ERSP, gear announces matches in early September, usually a week or two before fall quarter. But what's really important is if you are choosing to apply for gear, is that you put down any and all research that you're interested in your application, because it's in your application that we use the information you provide us in your application is what we use to pair you in a lab. We do not provide information to rank your lab preference because we use a lot of what's in the application to recruit faculty if we do not already have a faculty member that does research in what you're interested in. So the options for research credit. So those vary by department, so discuss with your major advisor. So students can get 199 credit, but it does have to be approved by your advisor. And we do provide co-curricular record validation at the end of the year.
All right, for ERSP, since it is just from one department, it's a little more streamlined. So I talked about before that you get the 4 units for the fall course that counts as a CSE major elective. This winter and spring, you'll do 2 units each of CSE 198. Which will also combine to count for a second CSE major elective. Now, if you're in ERSP and you're not a CSE major, then it's up to your department and your major program to decide whether those courses can count towards your major.
So selection criteria, the program is designed to support students who face challenges due to their minority status in CSE engineering, including ethnicity, gender, identity, sexual orientation, first in college status, ability, Students must gain awareness of the diseases facing students from these populations and express how their participation will help support and increase students from these groups, as well as underrepresented in CSE engineering. But you do not have to yourself be from a minority group to apply to participate. Please express your motivation and dedication in your application about why you're interested in doing these programs, because they are competitive. They are intended for students who have not had experience yet and are really wanting to get involved in research. So please express all of that in your application.
And then I wanted to comment on this at the bottom here. At least in the ERSP application, we do ask for you to see your grades. And sometimes students get a little nervous about that. Well, I don't have a 4.0. I don't have a 3.8. Don't worry about that. We don't use GPA as a selection criteria. What we do is we ask for your grades because if it looks like you really struggle or you're really struggling, we may need to, work with you to see if this is a program that makes sense for you. So we just want to have a sense of like that context, but we almost never use it as like something that would rule anyone out. So please apply no matter what your GPA is, and don't be embarrassed or worried about it at all.
Similarly, for year, we don't take into consideration your GPA. Make sure other than that is making sure that you are motivated to do research.
All right, there is a question in the chat that's related to what we were just talking about. So let's pause and take that question. So what if you are only struggling in classes that aren't relevant to your research interest? Like I said, it probably isn't going to be a big deal at all. If you're truly struggling to the point where you're having trouble meeting your requirements for UCSD, then we need to probably have a conversation about whether you really can fit in this commitment or not. But it's more of a conversation, right? It's not like it'll rule you out or anything.
Exactly.
All right. So both programs have a lot of the same benefits, and they're really, really strong benefits. So you basically are going to join this research community. So you're going to be connecting with students as well as faculty and grad students who are all part of the UC San Diego research enterprise, and then also connecting with other students that are going through exactly what you're going through right now. So since you're all early in research, you're all at a similar stage of your academic progression, and so we find that the students have a lot in common, and they end up maybe in classes together and supporting each other through those classes, and really become friends for the long term. You'll also, a lot of students, when we ask them at the end what was the most valuable experience, they say that they got a lot of professional skills, how they can talk about their work, how they can write about their work, as well as some technical skills from doing the research itself that are going to be helpful no matter what you do going on, whether it's future research opportunities, which we hope you'll continue with, or going into industry or whatever you're going to do in the future.
So as we mentioned before, if you're interested in gear, we have here the majors that we encourage those from the so for students who don't have any prior research experience, preferably current first-year students at the time of your application. So if you are a transfer student, that includes you. You're still technically a first-year student at UCSD. So we definitely welcome transfer students to apply. If you're a second-year student wanting to apply as well, you definitely can. But we definitely encourage just students who haven't had research to apply for our program. And then
in ERSP, I can talk about the requirements are just a little bit different, which is instead of saying you have no prior research experience, we are going to require that you have not taken, when you're not currently enrolled in any upper division CSE courses. People have a lot of questions about, well, what if I am enrolled in, just this one special class? So we do make some exceptions. So if you are not strictly meeting the eligibility requirements, exceptions are very possible, but there's going to be another essay on the application that you have to complete if you're asking for an exception to the eligibility criteria. And I can say that every year we do allow students in who don't strictly meet these eligibility criteria.
So important here is that applications for both programs are due. It's actually Monday, April 18th at 11:59 p.m. So we'll go ahead and update that. So as a reminder, Monday, April 18th. So this is the beginning of week 4 for you all. And then you can see here, for anyone that's attended today, I'll make sure to send you the recording. But please know that the applications are also on our websites. So there's a great questions in the chat. Are applications reviewed on a rolling basis? For year, it is not a rolling basis, and you must apply before the deadline.
Same with the ERSP. It's just you must apply before the deadline. We review everybody together and we make our selection. I will say if you have friends who are coming in as incoming transfer students for ERSP, we have another round of applications strictly for incoming transfer students that happens during the summer. But for everybody who's currently a UC San Diego student, it's that April 18th deadline, and we'll just admit everybody from that pool. All right, so let's, and here are the contact information for the two programs. So let me go back. I think there were a couple of questions that went by in the chat. So Andrew's question about, can you speak to someone prior to applying? Absolutely. So here are the folks that you would contact if you have a question about your specific information, your specific situation. And then Jonathan asked, since the winter and spring quarters are less units than the fall, does that mean their workload similarly decreases from 4 units to 2 units approximately? For ERSP, yes, it does mean that. So in the fall, you'll probably be working closer to 12 to 14 hours. And then in the winter and spring, it's more like 6 to 8 hours. So it definitely does. It's a little bit less in the winter and spring. I don't know for gear, if you can speak to that. Credit structures are different in gear.
Yeah, so for gear, there are no classes that you're taking. Therefore, you're not getting any units for winter and spring unless you elect to get 199 credit. And again, for that, you would need to connect with your major advisor. And then they work with your faculty, whatever the process looks like for your department. But students are not getting, unless the student goes through that process, you're not getting units for winter and spring, but you do get a co-curricular record validation, so CCR approval for your involvement in gear for winter and spring, which goes on your transcript.
All right, there's a question in the chat too about as a second year student, would we recommend asking professors for research or applying to this program? I think, at least I'll speak for ERSP, it really depends how far you are into the program. So like if you're a CSE major and you've already taken, a good number, like 3, 4 upper division, like if you're well into the upper division, then it's better to connect directly with the faculty because this program, ERSP, is probably not right for you. But if you are still very early in your, like you just decided to do CSE or something, or you're a little bit, not, I wouldn't say slow, but you're not like accelerated or advanced through the major, then I think applying to this program and having a compelling reason why you want to apply as a second year student would make a lot of sense. All right. So this is a really good question from Jonathan about, since class enrollment is coming up soon, should we enroll in classes we would take if we didn't get accepted and then switch one later once acceptances come out? We do try to notify students so that it is still within the registration window when you get your notification. For first pass, obviously you don't need to reserve this class for first pass, right? But you will, we will let you know when the class is, we will let everybody who applied know when the class is scheduled for the fall so that you can then plan your schedule around it in the case that you get into the program. So I'd say have a contingency plan for both ways, plan on whatever you want to plan on, and then we'll try to let you know as soon as possible and you can switch it up if it ends up being that you got in.
And for gear, we let students know during week 5 if they've been admitted. So then at that point, we do the Inch 20 pre-enrollment. But unless students are supposed to be taking Inch 20, we don't let general students enroll in that class, which is for gear. So I would definitely recommend anticipating, but know that we do our best to inform students ahead of time.
Great. And then there was a question in the chat about past projects in the ERSP, and Mai put the link to that project page there. You can see that there's a wide range of projects, so that's definitely the best way to get a sense for what past students have worked on. Also, it's after the application deadline, but definitely come to the poster session in week 10, and you'll get a good feel for the program.
Similarly for gear, I also dropped the previous poster presentations for students for gear. So you're more than welcome to look at those.
When and where exactly are we told when the class times are for ERSP in order to plan around it? We don't even know when it's been scheduled yet. So they are still like, schedules are not set at all yet. And so as soon as the application deadline closes and the class is scheduled, we will let you know. We will certainly let everyone know before your registration time when that class is scheduled for. But we'll try to let you know as soon as possible after it's been scheduled.
Similarly for Eng 20 for the gear program, we don't know yet. So we will know at some point in the next few weeks or whenever that information gets shared with us. So if you're accepted, you will be communicated that information. I know there's another question here. What's the acceptance rate for gear? So for gear last year, we did have about 85 applicants and we had spots for about 30 students. So I'm not sure what that means for the percentage exactly off the top of my head, but I know that there are folks wanting to participate in research and just putting your best foot forward in the application, and like anything, just doing your best.
Yeah, the acceptance rate for ERSP is similar. Yeah, it's probably about that as well. It might be a little bit lower, but it's similar.
Feel free to ask any additional questions as well while we're here.
Guidance. Okay, is there any guidance for how long the application essay should be? This is my standard answer. Long enough to communicate what you need to communicate and no longer. So as short as you can make it while still communicating what you need to communicate. And, you know, if you think about it from the reviewer's point of view, they're reviewing, you know, dozens of student applications. So the shorter, the better, but not too short that you're going to cut off what you need to say. And if you really want a number, I'd say about a paragraph is usually what we see.
And similarly for gear, doing your best to communicate what you want to say and not needing it to be longer than it has to be. And then the question, can we apply to both gear and ERSP? So just go back to what majors. Let me go ahead and.
Yeah, I will say there's one exception to that, which is ECE majors, especially in the CE program. For those students, I would probably encourage you to apply to both because you kind of straddle both sides.
If you're an MAE student, it makes sense that only gear would be the program that you're applying for, but definitely for ECE students and definitely CSE students, encouraging you to apply for ERSP or both for ECE.
Mm-hmm. And I will say ERSP does accept students from outside engineering, but the preference is, again, for CSE students. So if you're in a CSE related major like ECE, CE, or CogSci or Math CS, we do sometimes make exceptions. So again, you just need to fill out the exception essay explaining why.
Any other questions? Remember, if you have any additional questions after our presentation, the contact information is here and who you can reach out to. Yeah, so I will go ahead and share a recording of this presentation with those who attended today. You'll also find it on our YouTube channel for the Idea Center within the next week or so.
All right, there's another question about the class experience for Eng 20. Alejandra, maybe you can talk a little bit about what students learn in that class.
So students really learn what it means to provide, whether it's like technical writing, how to develop a research proposal, how to better techniques in approaching research articles, because a lot of what students experience in the first month or two in their lab is that the PI, the graduate mentor, has them reading research articles to better understand the specific research being done in the lab. They have them attending group meetings as well with them. So sometimes just understanding the basics of research is really helpful. So then in 20, those are really the primary aspects of what students are learning, as well as time management, especially as you're balancing both research with your personal academic balance. So there are definitely a lot of aspects of the class that end up being useful for students. And then just to add to N28 is a 2-unit class that students participate in the fall. Any additional questions? We can definitely go ahead and wrap up. If for anyone who has an additional question, you can just go ahead and linger and you can just wait maybe if you have an additional question that comes up, but we'll be here for the next few minutes. Thank you all for attending. We look forward to seeing your your applications for our programs.
Yeah, apply and encourage your friends too. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, that was